Okay, we're live, everybody. Okay. So, hi, my name is Caron. I am the grad intern for CIE. And we have Moddie Linen Jr. and Caroline O'Connor, and we'll be talking about the Mlk panel. How are you guys feeling today?
Awesome. I'm feeling great. Feeling terrific. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, hey, thank you for being here. So, if each one of you guys, I don't know who want to start first, want to introduce himself?
After you, Caroline.
Oh my God, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline O'Connor. I'm a junior here at Regis, and I'm a public health major on a pre-med track.
Hello, folks. My name is Moddie Linen. I am a graduate residence director here at Regis. I'm also studying, I'm doing a master's of education and student success.
Okay. We got some good people here, educated, love it. So I want to start by saying, what does the legacy of Mlk mean to one of you guys, each of you guys, actually?
I mean, I think for me, I think this legacy is this understanding that there are still a lot of issues present, and I think a lot of systematic barriers present. But I also think it means educating yourself, educating the people around you, having those really tough conversations to push for a better future for everybody. I think it's equity and I think it's activism.
Okay, that's so good.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of what Caroline is saying, that the legacy still stands today. We are still fighting for a lot of our freedoms, equality that we're looking for within so many systems in America. MLK always preached for us to nonviolence, to love one another. And I think that's still at the foundation and heart of what we're striving to do today.
I agree with both of you guys. I think when I think of the legacy, I think is a backbone of how far we came as well. We still have work to go, and I think it's like okay, a reminder of like, all right, this is what we need to do. This is what footsteps we have to follow and keep on going. So I think that's what the legacy means to me.
Exactly.
Yes. So I also wanted to know, in today's society, we have a lot of movement going on right now. So do you guys can think of any leaders that reflect or follow Martin Luther King Jr. footsteps? That was a really good question, right? I honestly thought about it too, and I was like, honestly, I can't think of a leader. For me, I feel like there's so much spoke models. I feel like that's how it is, influencers,
Mhm.
because social media make it so hard to pick. Oh, that's a leader. That's a leader. I think of me when I see him like, oh, that's someone who's stand up for the movement. I think we have more of influencers and
Yes.
spoke models than like that one leader.
Yeah,
I don't know
to
how
kind
would
of
you guys
go
feel.
to kind of go off of what you're saying. I don't necessarily think that there's just one leader. I can think of a few in my head, like Ben Crump. He fights for a lot of injustices that take place within the Black community. However, I think it's more evolving to generational. As the youth and as the people, and I think about the Black Lives Matter movement as the leaders, and Three Queens started that movement, and I think that's what's really shifting the culture and pushing it forward to what we're looking to achieve.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think bouncing off of that, when I think like here initially like the leaders, I really think of like a lot of the influential young Black women that have really shaped politics in America and shaped everybody's lives. I mean, like look at what Stacey Abrams did for Georgia. That was insane, and it wouldn't have been possible without her. Um, Also thinking about Little Miss Flint, how she's this young girl and she's been like the face of like fighting for clean water in Flint, Michigan, and how that was a racial injustice there. Now the leaders in Flint are finally being held accountable, but she was this young girl that saw an issue and was able to push for incredible change.
Yeah,
Great.
when you say that, it made me think like every day you go on social media, you see a new person, no matter what color, race, background, is standing up for it. I feel like it's hard to be like, yes, the leader. Like for me, I can't pick a leader. When I think of it, I'm like, hard. I feel like we have a lot of influencers because I feel like when you one person do it, another person goes like a domino effect, and I
Mhm.
just love it.
Would you agree that back in the days of Martin Luther King, only prominent folks in the civil rights movement would have the stage to speak to many people, Whereas in our generation, we all have access to have that voice and to reach many people. So I think that's why we're kind of saying that, there's some prominent like leaders out there, but I think generational, a lot of us are the leaders of pushing the culture forward.
I think what me also, I think when I think of Martin Luther King days, I think of fear. A lot of
Mm.
people I feel like had a voice, had something to say, but was scared based on their surrounding or going on TV. And I think that's what's going on. I feel like when back then in our generation now, like it's more like, oh, freedom of speech. Like I think it's like everyone's all about that freedom of speech. They have their own platforms. They
Mhm.
use it to how they want. Like for example, like Instagram is a big one if you think of it, of influencing people with missing cases or just in generally with Black Lives Matter movement. I think everyone took that day and posted a black screen, and that's their platform. So there's like that's their way they share their voice, and that became like a challenge, and that became like a movement.
The Blackout Tuesday.
Yep.
Yes.
I feel like also with social media, sorry if I cut you
Oh
off.
my god.
I feel like with social media, it's made education accessible. Um, and I think that's really essential if you want to create change and push that forward.
Caroline, let me stop you guys right here. So lovely Trey's gonna join us. So if you want, you can move right in the middle.
Yes.
And
Right.
Trey can be on the
Welcome,
side.
Trey.
All right, Trey, do you want to introduce yourself?
The more the merrier.
So my name is Trevon Wright. I'm from Springfield, Mass. I'm currently a grad intern for Center for Ministry and Service at Regis, and I'm just happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. But we, if you want to hop in, we're talking about any leaders of
Okay.
today that influenced Martin Luther King. That was influenced by Martin Luther King, I should say. Do you think of any?
I think at least a handful. Definitely Barack Obama and what he
Mm.
was able to do. He accomplished a huge milestone by being the first African American president in U.S. history. Having that level of success and being basically the face of an entire country. You can even say a region as well, the Western civilization, and being a black man for where he came from, his upbringing, and his knowledge, that was impactful for all of our community. Um, he stood up for what was right, and he never gave up. Others, include LeBron James.
Absolutely.
He makes a lot of money, yes, but he still uses it for the right things, right?
That's true.
He uses his platform to communicate with other communities, right? Because basketball is a international sport. It's a global sport.
Mhm.
And even though America is known as an international country, everybody knows what goes on within our borders, within our walls, within our homes. And having him as basically a spokesperson for our communities, for his level of success and the opportunity he has been given and his accomplishments, it's good to have someone like that, and it's good to have someone that you can trust to do the right thing and follow what's right. Another one I would say just recently is Kyrie Irving. He hasn't played basketball in 2 weeks, and if you don't play, you don't get paid. He's able to sacrifice his his source of income for us. He stopped playing ever since the attack at the Capitol building.
Mm.
So he gets paid what anywhere between $30 and $34 million a year, and the Brooklyn Nets are in a position to void his contract because he hasn't played, but he's taken a moment of silence, step away from the game, because obviously what's going on outside of basketball is more important than basketball itself. So I think that's very impactful because I don't know if I could do that. Sacrificing my income, sacrificing what allows me to eat, puts a roof over my head. It's kind of hard to sacrifice those things, especially when you've had it for so long and you're so used to it. So I think that's very impactful and something that a lot of us should take a step back and look at.
I think that's very powerful because thinking about it, I don't know if I will be able to take a step back. I think with me is I'm in school and I'm doing all of this is to be able to help my family. And not only my family in America, but I have to think about my mom is getting older, my dad's getting older. I have all these little cousins growing up in Haiti. I think of them too because I have I don't know who created WhatsApp, but me and them got to talk. Like when WhatsApp created, all these little cousins from the Caribbean texted me, "Hey, cuz, I need $20. Hey, cuz, I need $10." And I know they need it. And I think sometimes it's like hard when you're in school and you're like, but I also need it. But then I have to humble myself, like, okay, you have mom, I'm on campus, there's a calf and stuff like that. So I think that's also a good point. Like, would we be able to step back from making money to prove a point? So that was a really good idea. Like,
I think going off of what Trayvon was saying is folks standing up and making that sacrifice. And I think that's a huge part of the message from Martin Luther King is he made the ultimate sacrifice, for something that he believed in, a dream that he wanted to come to fruition. And I think, it's notable that a lot of these athletes are doing similar things. I think about Colin Kaepernick, with taking the knee during the national anthem, whereas many folks found it, extremely disrespectful. I feel like it was peaceful protest and nonviolent, which brings us back to the essence of what Martin Luther King stood for.
Okay.
that's important to think of. I think when I think of today is, for example, when Black Lives Matter movement was happening here, it wasn't just happening here. Like that's what I love. Like I have family in France and they posting, they're moving, they having marched themselves for Black Lives Matter. So I think that's another thing. I think of social media is such a big platform now and the influence of changing stuff. Oh, thank you. You can hold it back. I have my phone too. But that's what I can think of. Like, how do you think social media help influence all the movements that's going on?
I mean, I think at the essence of it is education. I think it like brings a lot of things into light that normally would get swept under the rug, which is also kind of terrifying to think about. I mean, think about Ahmaud Arbery. Like, imagine if like the video wasn't presented to all of us. That would have just been another life loss. So I think it also like poses this question of also like, do people like who are celebrities, who are influencers, who have a lot of followers, are they like required to use this platform? Because a lot of them are like, well, like I didn't ask for this, or it's either understanding that or understanding like I have this intense platform where a lot of people view it like, how can I use it for good? So
No, that's an excellent point.
Well, I think social media, the thing it sheds light on the things that were happening when our parents were our age and our grandparents were our age. Because they didn't have the technology that we have now. So it definitely sheds light on things that people were afraid to talk about, or they felt shameful when they took part in certain things and they didn't want to be seen doing it. And it opens all those doors that have been closed for decades and centuries. And what's good about social media, it brings people together, right? It gets the word out, because we can't just, send letters through the mail or do flyers. Most people are on their phones. It's better to do something that accommodates everybody and virtual technology that we have today. I think without social media, we're going to have most of these protests, we're going to have most of these movements. Right? We're going to be aware about certain things because something could be happening in California while we live all the way in Massachusetts. So it definitely helps us connect with people on the other side of the country and also the other side of the world as well. So it's definitely been very impactful. And it opened a lot of eyes, I think. A lot of people have second guessed the way they think, even second guessed the way they feel. And people have changed. So I'm hopefully continuing in that direction.
I think when it comes to social media, to me, I think of the backbone of social media. Like for example, social media is based on what algorithm, like how many times you watch something. So I feel like in a way it helps people reminding. So I feel like the more influencers share it and put in their platform, the more it keep going out there. Like if I watch something for 3 seconds, it's always going to be coming up on my timeline. And I think that's how social media is influencing all these movements that's going on, women's right, the Black Lives Matter. Also with the Muslim movement, there's a lot of movement that's going on, and I feel like social media, we wouldn't be able to talk about it. It also helped people like influencers have that free voice, that free platform. Like we used to get all our information on the news. Now we can just go on social media and it like is right there. So you get to see both sides, not just one side anymore. I think that's also important to think about when it comes to social media. You not only see one side, now you can see both sides and pick where you want to stand.
Yeah. I think for me, I think social media sometimes can be a gift and a curse, because I think that there's some folks out there that, that has that dangerous rhetoric and that hate speech sometimes, and it can resonate with some people, and that's now they're influenced to do other things that kind of that's not of our country. And on the positive side of it all, and I think you made this point, Trayvon, is that it's eye opening. When I saw the tragedy that happened to George Floyd, it really turned my world upside down. And I feel like I can't speak for everyone, but you start to get like desensitized to a lot of that because you see it in mass media all the time. But it seems like that one, it was different, and that one really highlight the inequities and injustice that was taking place in so many communities across America. And just to kind of bring it back, that it's the same thing that Martin Luther King was saying that he wanted to eliminate. That was a part of his dream, and I think we're continuing that today by putting in a lot of like different policies in order. Having these conversations here are perfect, and and really trying to bridge the gap with folks that that have these radical ideas and thoughts about us, whereas we got to bring it back to humanity and the love for people.
I think when you brought that up, I think it's also good to also block some stuff on social media. I think social media, with everything that's going on, me personally, my mental health had been attacked. Like watching George die and hearing this person, every time I went on social media, it was another Black person, another hashtag. I remember like one time I'm watching TV and I'm like, scrolling down and I'm crying. I'm like, wow, that can be me next, or my cousin. I'm sorry, I'm from a family of 6 guys. And I'm like telling them like, hey, be careful. Like I'm always that friend. Please be careful. Please be safe. Please do that. Just because of social media, and I feel like I changed from all right, have fun to please be safe. And I think I had to get a social media block. I was like, okay, I got to block the Instagram, put it down, delete the app for at least a week for my mental health. I think that's another thing with social media and these movements is also they pour so many information at you at once. Most like as a person of color, you sometimes get mentally blocked. Like, whoa, I don't know if like Trey or Modi ever felt that way. Even you, Caroline. Like ever like just keep watching social media and you just get like, well, that's enough. Like I need to put my phone down.
Well, I would say that for my mom, she watches social media a lot. And one thing I would say, every time we talk or every time I see her, she's very worried when I'm going to work. She's worried when I go to school. She's worried when I go to the gas station. She's very, very worried. And all I can tell her is that it's going to be okay. I can't guarantee her my safety because I can't see into the future.
Yeah.
All I can do is be the best person that I can be and hope for the best, right? Because you never know. Because it could be somebody who's having a terrible day that you bump into and everything can just go sideways.
Yeah.
You just don't know. People are always going to be people, right? But it's just always best, until you just have to remain positive. I know it's hard. I know that no matter where you are, no matter where I'm at, we're always in danger. There's always going to be a target on our backs. And I think the most important thing to do is just try our best to influence change and still continue to fight that fight. I know it's been going on for a long time, but just can't give up. And we have to do the same thing for our kids and the same thing for our grandkids. Because my grandmother tells me the same thing. Even though I'm at work, even though they call me on FaceTime and see I'm at work, they still, are very, very worried. And I said, the best thing for me to do is just to be who I am. And, I know I have to keep that in the back of my head, but I can't let it shape me or stop me from what I want to accomplish in life. It's always going to be hard. And I've always been taught by my dad that if we don't struggle, it's hard to be successful. And you set up for the best. And I just hope that at some day, at some point, our communities can just come together and you don't have to worry about that anymore.
I mean, I think looking at it, I think from a person who would never experience racism or has to worry about it, I think when you were talking about like social media and like how it can feel overwhelming, I think for me, it's definitely this understanding of like the line between like, this is making me feel uncomfortable and okay, this is like bad for my mental health if I keep pushing myself down this spiral. I think if it's making you uncomfortable, good. It should make you uncomfortable. And I think it should push you to want to learn more to how to be a better advocate, how to be a better activist. Like, what do those words mean? What does it mean to be like an ally? Because I think if you're a white person and you're silent about these issues, I think it just perpetuates more violence. And also, I think seeing people die, no matter what, is very traumatic in some capacity. And I think watching that continually, like on social media, like definitely can be a lot. So I think understanding, like, okay, like, shouldn't watch that video. Instead, like, I should look up into these sources. I should donate to these bail funds. Like, I should learn how to support the cause. Like, I think it's just understanding that balance.
I agree.
So another question I had is how the dream have evolved since Mlk delivered the original speech in 1963.
It's evolved. Probably not to the extent that he would wish it to be, because we still have a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges, and a lot of obstacles, especially living in a country that preaches about equality. Everybody living under and within the same standard, and being in a democracy, but still feeling like you are separated. Still find there is a gap, no matter how fast you run, no matter how hard you try, still there's a gap between you and your peers. It's definitely hard, but I think we're making progress, right? I'm still able to receive and gain an education. I still feel safe in certain places that I'm at, and I think that we just got to continue the race. It's not really a race, but it's more like a marathon. It does feel very long, but I think at some point we will reach the finish line. I think it's very possible, but it's just, again, it's going to be a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, and it's going to involve a lot of change, and it's definitely going to involve a lot of sacrifice too. And I think that's what Mlk was foreseeing for us, foreshadowing for us in his speech, that it's possible, but it's just not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult, and it's going to take all hands on deck. It's going to take everyone to put the work in, and everyone just to come together and be the best.
Yeah, I can speak.
I'm still processing it.
Well, I think that a lot of what Dr. King was speaking about has come to fruition today. And what he had, the dream that he had and what he wanted to see. We're all sitting together here. We're educated. We're pursuing, some of us are pursuing multiple degrees and those sorts of things. So I think that that's a huge part of the dream. And I also would add that, we're striving for that freedom and that systematic change. And I think by us putting ourselves in the positions of different, I would say, sectors of society and different professions, that's us driving that change. And the younger folks that look up to us, we're going to be the role models for them. And I just feel like that's going to be a continued cycle, so that when you look up, you're like, wow, this family members, doctors, lawyers, and educators, and so forth. And hopefully that they would try to be the same or even something better. So I think that, a lot of his dream is still alive today. And I think that we are in a good place to continue to push his dream and his change ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like almost in a way, like the dream was the baseline for us to kind of grow off of. I think after that speech, like the Civil Rights Act was passed, and I think from there, I think we needed to change the conversation from equality to equity and actually providing people what they need. I think this would mean like looking and revamping and like expanding the current Civil Rights Act. I think it's policy and change is the dream alive today, and people actively wanting to do that, how we can go from conversation to something bigger. So I think, yeah, I mean, desegregation was just the beginning. And I think what it means to remove barriers is may potentially having to be the revamping of the current system in place, but I think it can be done.
I like how you say moving into equity, because when I think of that, I'm a person, I'm in healthcare, so that's what I've studied, and mostly my master's in public health. So when I think of equity, I'm thinking like healthcare related, insurance. There's a high percentage of people who possibly die in America is pregnant Black women because they think we're able to handle the pain more. So I think those are the things I think of when it comes to Martin Luther King. I'm like, yes, his dream happened to see. Like I feel like he have like a lot of his speeches, what he said in his speech us today, are standing, are building, but it's like, where do we go from now? I think there's a lot of where do we go from now. And mostly in healthcare, I think that's where the big guess is like, okay, they had that stereotype of Black men, Black women can handle pain more. So it's like, how do we show them, like, hey, no, that's not true. They can suffer the same way everyone suffers.
Yeah.
Pain is pain. I was like, as much science has shown, we are all the same. So I think that's what I think of when it comes to his dream. Like, I feel like, okay, how can we use his dream to put it in healthcare? That's what I stand for. I'm like, okay, Martin Luther King said this and this and this. I'm like, that's great. I love it. Like education. A lot of Black doctors are graduating, and a lot of nurses are African Americans, and I love it. It's not like, how do we move it into society approving it? Like, that's why I am standing in more. It's like I'm a person of color who's also in bio, who also want to be in public health, traveling third world countries. And I remember telling my family that, and they're like, "Oh, girl, you should go be a nurse. You know, a lot of people, you're gonna be competing with a lot of people." And I'm just like, okay, a lot of males, I get it. And then it's just that barrier. I think for me is when I think of his speech is how can I move it into healthcare? But that's my personal experience. Any thoughts?
I mean, like, as someone who is like kind of on a similar track, because I'm public health pre-med, so I totally understand this concept. And I think for me, like, healthcare has always been the great equalizer. Like, if you are able to receive this quality care, like, you are gonna, it's a lot easier to succeed when you're feeling good. So I think it's looking where like our healthcare system has failed so many people today. And like, I think as a white person who wants to pursue like a community health like situation, like I think it's important to look at like not only the person, but like I think the experiences that come with identity, and I think how to create the most safe space and most equitable space possible for that.
I think a lot of like I think of my minor is lab operating management, so I teach people these stuff. And one of my favorite is now a lot of hospitals are building programs where you have someone to translate what's going on. You also have weekly diversity teaching. Like I remember my internship, one of them was doing that. I think it was so fun. Like, hey guys, this is this and this, and like how to talk to people, how to understand people barrier, different cultures do believe in some different stuff. Like for example, my dad's our Jehovah's Witness. They do not take blood. It's okay. Trying to find around it. Like there's this new method, I'm blanking out. Wow. And pretty much is using something similar to blood. So having that offer to them, I think that's what I think like when it comes to that. We have an audience question. I just gotta unlock my phone. It says, sorry guys. So why did Mlk teach you about where and how to use your voice to make a change?
Um, I look at it always being, time and place.
Mhm.
Definitely, at school it's good. Your workplace is a big one. Home at times, and even amongst your peers. Um, but it's good to have that conversation, because it'll rub off on other people, right? You want to influence a positive change, and you gotta. It's good to communicate um, what you think is wrong at times. Right? Some people want to accept what you're saying, but they might not like it, or it's not doesn't line up with their values or traditions. And I think having a conversation is one of the steps that MLK wants us to take in order to influence change. I wouldn't use the word enforce, but inspire, influence change. Because some people really got to hold someone's hand in order to guide them down the right way. And I think a lot of people in today's society just need their hands held, and they need the right guidance. And with that, it can definitely change the way they look at things, how they feel about things, and it can definitely change this country. But it just starts with that conversation, because we can post whatever we want to post on social media, wear whatever we want to wear, eat whatever we want to eat. But if we don't have that conversation together as a group, how much change are we really making? And that's what we definitely taught me. It's good to have your voice be heard. Don't shy away because it's just me as a black male in the room versus 7 or 8, either white people or someone who's not from the same background as me. There's no reason to be afraid. Once you stand up for yourself and have that confidence, I'm pretty sure your peers will show you the respect and listen to you.
That's right.
So that's definitely what he taught me, and it's still what I use today.
Well, I think when it comes to MK, sorry, first I want to say when you said the ending, it made me think of Michelle Obama.
Mhm.
I think that's my queen in the world.
Mm.
When she says, I never forget because I felt like, yeah, that's so true. Was she's standing beach? She's like, I'm not loud. I have something to say, and I don't have an attitude. I just know what I want.
Mm.
And I feel like that goes back to Martin Luther King a lot because Martin Luther King just know where he stand, know what he wanted to talk about, and I also think also when it comes to him, I take away the communication part, understanding the other party. Just because you know this is what you want, understand why the person is the way they are, and from there build the bond to maybe influencing them into showing them the right way, not just attacking them. So I like to have a conversation like, hey, why do you believe that? Why change and stuff like that, just to get to know the person background of why they say what they're saying. So I think that's what I took away from Martin Luther King. He was very big on understanding the other side.
Mm.
I mean, I think what I've taken away from MLK is like, I think understanding that like your voice and your weight, I mean, your voice and like your actions have weight to them. Like they mean something, like they can impact somebody. So it's that understanding of like, if you have this voice and you have this capability to make change, why not do it? Yeah.
That's true. I think for me, I have a background of working in group homes. And I remember in our training, in our abuse and neglect training, one of the first things they said, so what do you do when you come across abuse and neglect? And a lot of folks always feel like, well, you report it. That's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do, the first thing to do is to stop it,
Mhm.
right? So I think about what Martin Luther King stood for is in the face of adversity or when you're seeing wrongdoing, are you seeing something that you know in your heart is not right? you need to stop it. You need to do something about it. And I feel like, from his dream to, bringing up so many different leaders and different movements has always energized me to stand up for what I believe in. If something is not right, if I feel like there's an injustice taking place, I feel like I know the proper channels to go through to address them. And I also know on my end, I know what I can do from my end to address it as well. So I think overall is to stand up, is to speak out and make sure that you're pushing the culture forward and not leaving it stagnant.
Absolutely. And I think it's like also understanding like where in situations do you have privilege, and if you can recognize that privilege, what are you doing with it to make change? Like if you have a platform, if you are someone that is not being directly affected by an issue but cares about the people around you, why aren't you like being active, and how can you be active with it?
That's right.
So we have another audience question. So Dr. King was inspired by his fate to work for justice and to assumption him in difficult time. Do your faith play a role in fighting for justice?
To be honest, I am not Catholic, but I do believe in God and that there is a supreme being. Um, but I think the most important thing what I get from that question is that having faith in yourself is a big thing. Because if you can't do it, how everybody else gonna do it? And it kind of starts with you. If you put in that work and you have faith in yourself and you do what's right and you believe it's right, I think you should follow through with it. Um, and it's important that we also have faith in everyone else around us, right? It's gonna be hard to influence or try to encourage um, people to think a different way.
Mhm.
Because sometimes they're set in that way. That's their mindset, and it's hard to change them to think in a way that could be better for our society and our communities. So I think having faith in yourself and having faith in everyone else, is definitely something that MLK has taught me, and it's important to have that, because without that, how far are we really going to get in life, right? How far is um, are we going to be able to reach our dreams? Make change, um, influence, inspiration, and things like that. It's kind of hard. So having self-belief, self-faith it's definitely huge in my eyes.
Excellent point.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I grew up Catholic, and I do still believe in God, and I do have that faith, though I don't necessarily agree with like a lot of the things the institution itself has done, the Catholic Church. But I think the most important thing that religion, that faith has taught me, like the essence of it is love, and the essence of it is taking care of people when you see that they need help. And I think that's really just influenced me, and like I think influenced how I kind of carried myself throughout the world. And just, I don't know, I think love and service to the dear neighbor, and just taking care of people and loving people.
No, that's exactly right. To kind of go off of what you're saying, I was raised Baptist, and I still hold on to some Christian values, as well as I have a spiritual side, I would say. And I feel like I have my own relationship with God that drives my faith day to day. In regards to the work of Martin Luther King and how my faith plays into it, to me, it's about acceptance. It's about acceptance of differences, acceptance of folks that have different backgrounds and come from different nationalities and so forth. And I think that's kind of drives me to get to know people's differences. And just because we disagree, to me, that doesn't mean separation.
Right.
That just means a different way of thinking or a different idea. And I love to collaborate and understand why you think differently. And I think you brought that point up as well. It's just the why, and teach me about why you think that way. And then, we don't necessarily have to agree, but we can also, kind of stand together and work together.
I think for me, I'm a woman of God. I really, as you say, Caroline, there's some stuff I don't think, I don't know how I got there, but it's like, I'm just reading the Bible, I'm like, wait a minute, that ain't all right. But, yeah. But I think for me, it started as a child. My grandmother, before she passed away, she used to live in Malden. She moved back home, built like a whole charity. Like her house was the after school place. It was always a place where people could get food. She used to call us, hey, I need money for medication. And she does not need it for medication. Just a little kid need to go to school. So she rather not have medication and send someone to school. So that played a big role in myself and my life. I think my grandma, I think I'm like little mama foon. That's what they call her. And I think that's what made me a person who stand up for what I believe in. Always talk, like my grandmother always talk, like if she don't like something, she let you know. If something doesn't sit right, she's gonna let you know. And I think that influenced me to become the person that I am. And that also because of the faith. Like my grandmother was very person, she was religious. She always go to church, always listening songs, always rashy though. But it was just like church was such a big deal for her, and it influenced me to also be that person and take the dear care, like dear for your near neighbor and caring for others and showing everything through love. So I think I'm that person, and I think when it comes for me to stand up for other people, it's through the love that I have for humans and nature and all that. So I think that faith is a big part of who I am.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's like the last question I have. But for those who are watching at home, we are having a raffle. So please email Dan or Audrey or I and enter for the raffle. I just want to say thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate this. But yeah, oh, the camera's right there. You were figuring it out. I see you looking at that. He's like looking up and everything. I'm like, oh, it's right there. It's right over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys.
Well, thank you for having us. It's been a great experience. Wonderful conversation with you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was fun, very exciting. I'm glad the school is partaking in these type of events, even though with the pandemic, we're able to safely come together and express our thoughts and feelings. So I think having that sense of togetherness, I think definitely puts smiles on people's faces. That's good.
Great.
Yeah, and having these conversations definitely keeps the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Alive and well throughout what we do today. So I'm just excited just to be a part of this. I'm excited that Regis College, takes a stand against the injustices that take place and celebrates, great men and women just as Martin Luther King and so many others.
Right. Just put this down here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, I don't know if it's logged off yet.